Welcome to another Safe Schools Rainbow Roundtable episode. I'm your host, Dr. Dan, and today we delve into a theme that resonates deeply within our community, LGBTQ+ representation in media and its evolution over the years. We'll journey through its evolution and its significant role in shaping societal perceptions and attitudes. In our historical overview, we'll travel back in time to understand the origins and transformation of queer representation in media, from stereotypical portrayals to rich, nuanced narratives. Then, in real-life experiences, we'll share poignant fictional stories that illustrate the deep impact of media representation on individuals' lives. These narratives highlight the importance of seeing oneself reflected in the media. Moving forward, our Tools and Resources segment will spotlight 7 exceptional shows and films authentically representing the LGBTQ+ experience, showcasing how diverse storytelling can enlighten and inspire. Finally, in the Future Outlook, we'll discuss Safe Schools initiatives and our vision for the future of LGBTQ+ representation, emphasizing the need for continued progress in diverse genres and spaces. From the small screens in our living rooms to the vast expanse of digital media, representation has been a powerful tool in shaping perceptions and attitudes. Studies have shown that exposure to queer characters in media can significantly increase acceptance and understanding. It's not just about being seen, it's about the quality of this visibility. Queer representation does more than just combat stereotypes. It normalizes and validates the existence of diverse sexualities and gender identities. It's crucial for our community, especially those still finding their place in the world, to see reflections of themselves in stories being told. But it's not just about the present. The true power lies in how these stories are told and how diverse and intersectional these representations are. As we explore this theme, let's remember that representation matters, not just in the quantity, but in the quality and diversity of the shared narratives. Now, I'd like to give a moment for our esteemed panelists. This is Harold Marrero. He is the COO of Safe Schools and executive producer of Rainbow Roundtable. Harold, any first thoughts about LGBTQ and media?
Well, we've come a long way, but there's still so much more for us to do. So I'm excited to be talking about this very important subject, and I'm sure that our diverse panel today will have a lot to say about it.
Absolutely. And now we have Tiffany Williams. She's a social media expert, host of the television show Tiffany Explains It All, and the director of outreach for Safe Schools. Tiffany, I imagine you're passionate about LGBTQ+ in the media?
Extremely passionate. It's super important. As someone who is a bisexual woman, there has been some representation of women like me, but viewed in a more promiscuous, scandalous kind of way.
Ooh.
And we can be that, but we can be so much more. So I look forward to talking about it today.
I look forward to it too. And then we have Eddie Mora. Eddie is a prominent social media influencer, host of the TV show The Tea with Eddie, and a Safe Schools TV producer. Eddie, any thoughts on the tea of LGBTQ+ and media?
I feel like we all watch TV, right? But we all want to feel represented. And I feel like there's still a lot of storylines that need to be told that are binge-worthy for us to watch. So, I'm excited for that in the future.
Awesome. And now we have Harrison C. Davies. Harrison is the marketing manager at Bottom Line Concepts. Harrison, can you tell us a little bit more about Bottom Line Concepts?
Well, Bottom Line Concepts has been in business for 15 years. It was founded as a contingency-based financial firm specializing in small businesses, which I think is a huge outlet for the LGBTQ community. Under BLC, big exciting announcement. We recently launched our partnership with Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful, so that's been a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz surrounding that. Recently pushed it to a much higher degree. Really excited to report on that. That doesn't keep me busy enough. Serve on the alumni board on my alma mater, Miami Country Day School, where I went for 13 years, and I'm a committee member at the Miami Children's Museum and Ellie's Army. So I'm just excited for you guys to have me here.
Busy guy.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Taya Harlan. She is the Public Relations Director of Reflect. Taya, can you tell us a little bit more about Reflect?
So Reflect Collective is a nonprofit in Miami, and we help queer trans people of color who are domestic and sexual violence survivors. And we do different programming throughout the year. But our 2 biggest programs are our queer QTPOC grant, where we help them, and then Queer Fest, which is a variety show every April.
That's awesome. You do important work in our community. Thanks, Taya.
Thank you.
In this segment, Real Life Experiences, we delve into the profound impact of LGBTQ plus representation in media on the lives of individuals, especially LGBTQIA plus youth. Growing up in a world where their identity isn't reflected in the stories around them, they feel isolated and misunderstood by friends and family. The Trevor Project's 2022 survey paints a stark picture. 45% of LGBTQ youth considered suicide, and over 70% experienced symptoms of anxiety. But there's a glimmer of hope in representation. 89% of LGBTQ youth reported feeling better about themselves when seeing LGBTQIA plus characters in TV and movies. Our first story is inspired by the Owl House. Imagine Alex, a young person grappling with their identity, feeling isolated and misunderstood. One day, Alex stumbles upon the Owl House and sees Lou's and Amity's relationship. This portrayal, far from the stereotypical narratives often seen in media, offers Alex a glimpse of a relationship filled with mutual respect and affection. Alex feels seen and understood for the first time, sparking a conversation with their family and opening doors to acceptance and support. Then there's Heartstopper, a show that resonates with many for its joyful portrayal of queer discovery. Consider Jamie, a teenager coming to terms with his sexuality, burdened by the fear of rejection. Heartstopper becomes his solace, showing him that being queer can be a journey filled with joy and love, not just challenges. Jamie finds the courage to embrace his identity, and his family and friends rally around him, embodying the allyship and acceptance of the show champions. Star Trek Discovery, another example, offers another powerful example. Picture Sam, who's always been a sci-fi fan but never saw a reflection of their non-binary identity in these futuristic worlds. Discovery's inclusive cast, especially characters like Adira and Gray, give Sam a sense of belonging and hope for a future where everyone is accepted for who they are. Lastly, let's talk about She-Ra. Imagine Casey, who struggles with the idea that their queerness might define their entire existence. Through Adora and Katra's evolving relationship, Casey learns that one's identity is multifaceted, and being queer is just one part of a rich, complex life. So to my panelists, I'm curious about your thoughts. How do you think shows like these impact the mental health and self-perception of LGBTQ plus youth? Do you have any personal or observed experiences where such representation made a tangible difference?
So I think it really helps seeing like positive things. And even for me, I like watching some of those shows sometime because I don't want to watch like drama all the time, but like a cute little show about like two gay kids, it's like fun to watch sometimes. I remember for me personally, a show that was on when I was a teenager was The Fosters. It was about a foster family. That was an interracial lesbian couple, and they had a bunch of children. Some of them were queer as well. And watching that made me feel accepted into kind of like a family that wasn't even my own family, because it kind of made me see my own identities in them. And I think I'm happy that these kids get to see this with different cartoons, with different programming, like Heartstopper, which is adorable.
Yeah, and for me, I'm a big Trekkie. And I'll tell you that I feel like I don't say this lightly when I say that Star Trek not only changed my life, but it saved my life. I grew up in a very weird household that up wasn't up and down wasn't down, and things were always in flux. And seeing Star Trek and seeing the future that Star Trek envisions, where no matter who you are or what you look like or what species you're from, what planet you're from, you're all working together collectively as one to bring out the betterment of being alive, of like what it's like to be a conscious being. That was beautiful. And even though Star Trek did not show any overt LGBTQ plus representation in the 90s and the 80s and 90s, they did do a lot of work when it comes to talking about it, but not talking about it. In fact, there was one episode in The Next Generation where Data creates his daughter. He makes another android daughter, and in the script, it was written that when Data was going to show off, what human relationships or what relationships are like, in the background there was going to be a gay couple, a straight couple, and like a interspecies but two women couple. And the producers at Paramount were like, "No, you can't do that. You can't launch that on national television." And I remember that they say that Whoopi Goldberg said, "I am not going to do this show. I'm not going to film this episode if you don't take out any references to like heterosexual, like normative language, and if you have to make it more open and more of what life should be like in the 24th century." And that was awesome for Whoopi Goldberg to be like, "I'm not doing this if it's not done." And then there was Deep Space Nine, that they had the first kiss between two women, and of course it was the character was she's a Trill, so she has like this worm inside of her that has many lives, so she's both male, female, and everything in between. But that was awesome. And I remember when that episode, I don't remember because I wasn't around, but when that episode aired, Paramount had faced a lot of backlash because people were like, "What are you doing?" But Star Trek fans were like, "This is Star Trek. What did you expect?" So I think, Star Trek was great.
It's space.
Yes.
It's space. Anything goes in space.
Right.
That's point blank simple. For me, I think what's interesting about a lot of these shows, especially the cartoon shows, I know the Owl House, another really popular show, is Steven Universe, which is about a boy who's raised by crystals.
We'll get to Steven.
Oh, okay. And I remember watching that show, and I remember I was like, why didn't I have this growing up? This is so fun, but I'm also biased because I love crystals. So I was like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. Woo! And what's interesting is that I think what's a lot of young people love about these shows is that they can see themselves represented, but they can also see the progression of that character that is just like them falling in love and being like, oh, okay. And then if they're experiencing the same thing, they're like, oh my gosh, but wait, but this person, this character went through the same thing I did, and I see similarities. Oh my gosh, am I in love with this person,
Yeah.
And it's just they start feeling alive. They're not being pushed in a corner, because there's so many people that are still so closed-minded, that are still telling them your way of loving someone is wrong. And the fact that they get to at least see a cartoon show about non-binary crystals fusing together, and that's their representation of being in a relationship, it's weird, yes, saying it out loud, but it's the message of unity and love and just expressing yourself is so profound, and they gravitate towards that.
Mm-hmm.
You just made me remember, because seeing romance and love and stuff, some people don't experience that, and that's our Arrow community. And Heartstopper has an Arrow character, and it was really cool to see that. I was like, wow, they're aromantic and asexual. Well, I don't know about aromantic, but I know they're asexual. And I'm just like, wow, that's so interesting to see that in a kid's show. And I can only imagine for those kids who don't have those attractions and don't really necessarily connect with the straight community or the gay community in those connections, have those connections there on the show and be like, wow, that's me. And that's so important as well, to see these different representations, as we said, with the non-binary crystals, as crazy as that sounded, and Arrow characters now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Talking about Heartstopper, that was an emotional roller coaster for me. I cried, I laughed, I fell in love with the characters. But I feel like it's a good representation, and it's a good escape of reality also, to live through their lives through the screen and just fall in love with the characters and the plot lines. And also, when it resonates with you, that's when it hits me emotionally. So I do enjoy shows like that.
I will say, though, another show that was really great, but I've read the book now and I've seen the show, is Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Oh my God, yeah.
That, I loved it. Yes, it's between two men that love each other, yes, but the concept, it seems so realistic, because it's the son of the president and the son of the royal,
the prince,
the prince,
yeah,
falling in love, and just seeing them falling in love, and you're like, oh my gosh, yes,
So cute.
but it's like there's just the setup. It's like this could be so realistic. What if this is like really happening? And
Well,
wouldn't that be like just like crazy? But
One, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, for you all, where do you think representation needs to go? Like, what hasn't been represented yet for queer youth that would be helpful for them to see?
oh, I would definitely piggyback off of what Taya said about being the ACE community. I think not a lot of people still understand it, and I think that's even more a need to like kind of talk about it and show characters
Exactly.
that are that are ACE.
And also different body types. I still feel
Yes.
that as a trans woman. I see so many trans women and they're all just skinny and not my body shape.
Yeah.
So it would be great to see more body types represented into our roles as well with shows. But definitely ACE. And also non-binary and people of color. We still need more POC representation, especially in children media.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody else is going to bring this show up, I'm afraid I'm going to have to. Big horror fan here, Chucky. Come on.
Oh,
Chucky.
Yeah.
I mean, and that whole franchise was founded over a pretty straight dramatic horror killer doll. Took itself way too seriously. It has evolved in so many ways, primarily with
Yes.
the LGBTQ culture. I think Chucky is the biggest horror icon ally we have, and
I mean,
recently.
but-
And
yes.
Wasn't the Babadook?
Oh,
yeah,
the Babadook.
yes, that.
That storyline is so funny. The fact that movie accidentally ended up on the LGBTQ plus
Right.
lineup for Netflix. But like, if you think about it, if you've ever actually watched the Babadook, you're kind of like, wait, this is all about mental health. You know what? Yes, you deserve to be here with us.
I think, and to answer your question, I feel like maybe we should have movies that explain these queer characters that were villains. Like, for example, what they did with Maleficent, with the 2 movies of Maleficent. Maleficent tends to like come out as like this, like, a big, strong lesbian character. Like, here she is, like, causing trouble. But it showcased, it gave her more story, more of like an understanding of who she is, why she does what she does. Like, and I feel like and I do think Disney is doing this a little bit, that they're reframing their villains to give you a more of a wide perspective. But I do feel like they should touch on, well, maybe they are queer villains. Like, talk about Jafar, like the angry twink that goes around like doing like bad things, or
I was gonna say from The Lion King, Scar.
Scar, yes.
Everybody's.
Scar.
I remember watching a comedian talking about. He's like, Scar was so gay. Like he's so, like. come on,
Hades
let-
was gay, definitely.
Yeah.
80s.
I just,
yeah.
I think Disney is, in my opinion, kind of personally going down with their storylines in general lately. So I don't know how much I'm trusting them in there.
Well, they're trying to appease
Production.
everybody.
I just
they can't appease China. Like, just let it go.
they had a lot of like a lot of people don't really like their new movie that just came out. They
Oh,
said that
Wish.
they didn't like the storyline,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the animation, but that's not relevant to the topic at hand. But yeah, I mean, maybe making a queer hero instead of a villain would be great.
Well,
Right?
yes.
Didn't she
No,
kinda, that was kind of discussed at one point.
What?
There was open
Yeah,
discussion
kinda.
about
Elsa?
Yeah.
No, Merida from Brave, because since she kind of is a very strong characteristic, and at the end of the movie, like the whole premise of the movie, she's supposed to be like, pick a guy, and she's like, I don't want anybody. So I'm like, a lot of people could relate to that. I mean, anyone, even people from the ACE community can be like, I want to be with somebody, but not in like that sense. So
Yeah.
and then you also like Elsa in the second movie, there was a lot of talk before the movie came out that she was going to be queer coded. She was already previously queer coded, and she still is. So that's
Hopefully in the third movie,
And, yeah,
I'm rooting for
Elsa-
Elsa to be a lesbian.
Elsa
To be
comes out in the
honest.
third movie.
Yeah.
Just truly letting it go.
And I think what's also interesting, going off of, because you were talking about Maleficent, and I think you were talking about the live action.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast live action, they kind of played a little bit with Gaston and
LeFou.
LeFou.
Yeah.
Because LeFou, there was a lot of times where I was like, LeFou, you poor
Yeah.
soul, you're like,
He was like, you're so beautiful, but dumb. Yeah.
And I think that was so interesting. I'm like, that would totally make, like, I think that would be hilarious because, like, LeFou's, like, in love with him. And I'm like, this is a toxic man who doesn't even know that he's also.
Yeah.
But I love that Luke Evans, the one that played Gaston, is openly gay. So that was like,
Yes.
maybe that affirms it, you know?
But it's still a pretty horrible person that's
True.
gay. And then the food, they do show him dancing with a guy at the ballroom scene. But it's like you blink and you miss him dancing
Yeah.
with another
They
guy.
got Russia cut it out of their broadcast.
And then
Yeah.
everyone gets up in arms about Disney doing. And whenever I see it, it's always a Disney movie that does that. Like I remember when Toy Story 4 came out, they were upset because they thought Forky was transgender. I was like, babe.
That's a fork.
I was like, it is a plastic utensil, love. Please don't compare me to a plastic utensil.